Let's dive into a simple daily Buddhist practice that you can fit into pretty much any schedule. We're talking just 5 minutes. It's designed to bring a little bit of calm into even the most ridiculously packed day. I mean, who doesn't, right? Some days feel like a total blur of tasks, deadlines, and just stuff. There's hardly any room to breathe, let alone for quiet reflection. But what if you could find that centering moment without having to blow up your entire routine? That's the magic number here. 5 minutes. That's it. This whole practice, from the very beginning to the very end, is designed to be a really powerful but super accessible way for anyone to bring a little clarity into their day. Think of this as a simple blueprint. It's a structured way to start your morning or just hit the reset button when you need it most. It's an awesome foundation if you're spiritually curious, but you're just not sure where to even begin. So the version we're walking through today has a bit of a Mahayana flavor, mainly because of the Heart Sutra. But really, its structure is super adaptable. The whole point is to give you a starting point, not to lock you into one specific tradition. Of course, if you already connect with a particular school, it's always best to follow their daily practice. Okay, let's start with the physical posture, which really helps set the intention. First, you'll need the text itself, the liturgy. Then, just cup your hands together, kind of like a lotus flower, and gently hold the text with your thumbs. It's a simple, respectful way to begin. All right, with our posture set, the practice really begins with our voice. The first thing we do is pay respect, or homage. This lays the foundation for everything that's about to follow. So the practice kicks off by paying homage to what's called the triple gem. This opening chant connects you to 3 core pillars. First, the Buddha, which represents enlightenment itself. Then, the Dharma, which are his teachings. And finally, the Sangha, the community. Next, the practice gets a little more specific, focusing that homage directly on Sakyamuni Buddha. This is really a way of showing respect to the historical founder of Buddhism in our age, grounding the whole practice in a very real lineage of wisdom. And from there, we get to the absolute core of the chant, the Heart Sutra. This is one of the most profound, most well-known texts in all of Mahayana Buddhism. This one line, this is it. It contains the central insight of the entire sutra. Now, I know, it might sound like a riddle, but it's an incredibly powerful statement about how reality actually works. So, what does it really mean? Let's break it down. Form is pretty much everything we experience. What we see, what we hear, our own bodies, even our thoughts. But emptiness, now this is key, it doesn't mean nothingness. It means that nothing has a fixed, separate, independent existence. Everything is deeply interconnected and always changing. Okay, but why does this actually matter? Well, according to the sutra, truly getting this interconnectedness is what allows a person to overcome suffering. It leads to a state of mind without fear or mental blocks, freeing you from confusion and ultimately pointing you toward nirvana. After thinking about that deep wisdom, the practice then shifts to something called taking refuge. You can think of this as finding a stable, reliable foundation to ground yourself in, like a safe harbor in the middle of life's stormy seas. First, you take refuge in the Buddha. This doesn't mean taking refuge in a person, but in the ideal of enlightenment itself, that potential for wisdom and compassion that exists in all of us. Second, you take refuge in the Dharma. This is all about finding guidance in the teachings, the wisdom that lays out the path away from suffering. It's like your map. And finally, you take refuge in the Sangha. This is the community of fellow practitioners. It's about finding stability and support in others who are on the same journey, reminding you that you're not doing this alone. And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most transformative part of the whole practice, dedicating the merit. After all that focus on wisdom and finding stability, we now do a complete 180 with our perspective. So you might be thinking, okay, after all this chanting and taking refuge, this practice is for my own benefit, right? To make me feel more centered? And that's a totally normal assumption. But this final step is designed to be a huge transformation of your mindset. It's about taking all the positive energy and focus you've just built up and intentionally giving it all away, moving completely beyond yourself. And this is the dedication. By saying this, you are literally offering up any benefit you got from your practice for the sake of every single living being. It turns this personal moment into a universal act of compassion, and it's a powerful way to work against greed and self-centeredness.
And that's it. That's the core 5-minute practice. But you've got to remember, this is just a starting point. It's a foundation that you can really easily build on.
So what could that look like? Well, you could sit in quiet reflection for another minute or two. You could recite personal commitments you've made, or you could just extend the time by reading a few pages from scripture or a book by a Dharma teacher you trust. Each one is a way to deepen the experience. So that brings us to the end. The structure is simple, the time commitment is tiny, but the potential shift in your mindset is just profound. So the final question is really for you to think about. What could dedicating just 5 minutes a day to this kind of practice truly change?